Hello, everyone. It's Miss Michelle. Today we are going to talk about Jesus and the disciples. Do you guys know what this is? Maybe you've already used one before in a pond or a river with your parents or grandparents. It's a fishing rod, and it's used to catch fish. How many people can use a fishing rod? Well, there's only one handle, so I would say one person. Unless you're holding it together with your father or mother or whoever's helping you to learn to fish. How many fish can you catch with a fishing rod? This one can only catch one fish. Well, we'll get back to fishing a little bit later. Jesus had gone into the wilderness, and John the Baptist started having trouble with Pharisees and with King Herod. But at some point, Jesus returned, and he went back to the Jordan where John was ministering. John had disciples that followed him, and one day saw Jesus, and he told the two disciples about Jesus' baptism. At that point, the two disciples decided to leave John and follow Jesus. They literally left John. He stopped and asked them what they wanted. They told Jesus that they wanted to follow him, and so he took them to where he was living, and they stayed with him. One of the disciples was a man named Andrew. The other was John. After meeting Jesus, Andrew went to get his brother Simon. When Simon came to Jesus, Jesus changed his name to Peter, which means rock. Obviously, Jesus knew something about Peter that Peter never knew, because changing someone's name is a big deal. Do you know anyone who's ever had their name changed? At some point after this, John the Baptist was arrested and put in jail. Jesus was teaching, and more people began to follow him. One day, Jesus was teaching at the Sea of Galilee, and he asked the fishermen, Peter and Andrew and the brothers, who had a boat, to push out and allow him to teach in the boat. Once the crowds went away, Jesus told the men to throw out their nets. I don't have a fisher's net, but I do have a net, which could have been made of similar material. It would have been much larger than this. The men told Jesus, "We fished all night and caught nothing." And Jesus told them to throw out the nets again. Peter and Andrew threw out the nets, and boy, did they catch fish. They caught so many that they had to call for James and John in another boat to help, because they had so many fish that their nets were breaking and their boats were beginning to sink. Peter then told Jesus to "Get away from me, Lord. I am a sinful man." Jesus replied back saying, "Have no fear. You will be catching men from now on." Now, with a fishing net, how many people would be able to use the net? Would it just be one like the fishing rod, or many? You'd have corners and you'd have sides, and they'd be very big. With the net being very big, how many fish could you get? Would it be one like a fishing rod, or could it be hundreds or thousands? Well, while in Galilee, Jesus found a few more disciples. He found Philip, who then found Nathanael, who also became Bartholomew. Under a fig tree, Philip told Bartholomew about Jesus, and he responded, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip told him to come and see. When Bartholomew met Jesus, he realized that Jesus already knew about him. And Bartholomew asked, "Well, how do you know me?" And Jesus replied, "Before Philip called you, I saw you under the fig tree." Did you know that Jesus already knows you and I and everything about us? What do you think about that? After doing a miracle, Jesus walked in Galilee and passed a tax collector named Levi, also known as Matthew. And Jesus told Matthew to follow him, and he did. And Matthew held a reception of sorts at his home for Jesus, and the sinners came to the party. The Pharisees did not like this, but Jesus told them a doctor does not take care of people who are healthy. He helps those who are sick, and that is what Jesus does. He saves sinners. A great many people followed Jesus, But Jesus chose 12 men out of a large group. He appointed them to be with him so that he could send them out to other areas of the world to preach and to have authority. Now, how do we remember who the disciples are? Now, there are 12 of them. First, we're going to learn the first 5. We're going to hold up 5 of our fingers. And in the 5 fingers, they have the 5 J's. They all start with J. We have Judas Iscariot. We have Judas Thaddeus. We have John and James the Less. And James. Now, in those 5, we create a W. The next few disciples actually all end with a W. We have Bartholomew, Andrew, and then we have Matthew. And there's, sorry about that, then there's 4 last disciples, which they are what basketball players would score in a game, points, or PPTS. There's Peter, Philip, Thomas, and Simon. How many people are able to fish with a fishing net? And how many fish are able to be caught in that fishing net? How many people are able to fish with a fishing rod? How many fish are able to be caught with that fishing rod? I finally caught one. With a fishing rod, only one person can catch a fish, and only one person can use the fishing rod. But with a net, several people can use a net and hold it all together and help each other catch lots and lots of fish. What would happen if one person would let part of that net go? That corner of the net is where fish would be able to get out if that's not being held up. Every disciple had a purpose, and each of us has our own purpose. The church works in the same way. Each person, including you, has a purpose. You have talents and abilities to do jobs that only you can do for God. It is like everyone in the church that has a large piece of the net, working together to be fishers of men. Let's bow our heads and say our prayer. Dear God, help us work together. Help me not drop my part of the net, and allow my talents to help my church and my community. Amen. I'll see you guys next time, and you have a great week.